First off, I'd like to thank these amazing people who decided to support me directly and make my work here on the platform so much easier. And remember, if you also want to help me out, the missile knows where the join button is at all times. Hello pilots, welcome back. How have your battles been? Mine have been going well. Before I start the video, I gotta point out that I managed to pull off the amazing feat of breaking my glasses, so I'm playing with less than half my vision right now. So yeah, some weird stuff might happen, even though my eyesight is perfect for everything except staring at a bright monitor. This has honestly been messing me up way more than I'd like. But enough with the bad news. It's all about dealing with it and pushing through. Those frags aren't gonna get themselves. Now, let's actually get into what you want to know. Let's start from the beginning and talk about the Su-30's performance. It's not exactly a superstar when it comes to raw performance, even though that's still enough for you to fly with your team and rack up 2, 3, or even 6 kills in a single match. The real secret, though, is in the plane's offensive kit. You get 10 missiles, 6 Fox 3s, and 4 Fox 2s. Of course, you can mix it up, like throwing in some R-27s, which might be better or worse depending on the situation. But the point is, the Su-30's offensive loadout is solid, especially for a 13.3 jet. It's a straight-up upgrade from the MiG-29 SMT in the tech tree. The only thing you'll really miss are the electronics, since the radar and warning sensors on this thing can let you down sometime. But it's all manageable, and I'll get into that later. From here on out, if you already bought the jet, this summary is probably enough for you. So if you don't want to hear this part, just skip ahead to the real matches down in the timeline. Now I'm going to talk about the price of the bundle and whether it's actually worth it if you're even a little interested in this thing. Look, the Su-30MK2 is definitely a tough plane to play, but it's got a high skill ceiling. That means if you stick with it and learn, you'll have a blast flying it. But dude, we're talking about 80 bucks or euros, and even if it's not one of those currencies, it's probably more expensive than a AAA game where you live, just like it is for me. Don't be crazy, guys. This is just a pixel you're buying to play with more pixels. It's never worth that kind of money. If this bundle ever gets an 80% discount, maybe one day I'll come back and actually recommend it. Especially with War Thunder being run by Gaijin, I honestly don't get why anyone buys stuff in this game. Think of Gaijin like a kid. Your kid only does dumb stuff, doesn't pay attention in school, treats you badly, swears at you, doesn't respect you, but you keep spoiling him, giving him money, supporting his choices financially, even though you know he needs to change. Over time, he's just gonna get worse, and don't be surprised if he gets into even more trouble. It's the same with Gaijin. The game's only gotten worse over the last 5 years, with just a few brief moments of hope, and it's not gonna get better anytime soon with the way the community and the company are acting. If you want the game to actually improve and be worth it, there's only one answer. Be smart, guys. Vote with your wallets. Your wallet has more power than you think. If we all stick together, we can make this game awesome, but if we lose control, we can turn it into a total mess. I think you get the message. So let's get into the real gameplay. So, like I said, the performance on this thing is actually pretty nice, especially for a 13.3 jet. Most of the time, you can fly high and fast if you've got good piloting skills, and that's exactly how I play most of my matches. But flying like that is really only strong if you're already experienced, because it means you have to manually control the radar the whole time, including where you're pointing the scan, and you'll need some more advanced keybinds or macros. So, if you're just starting out at this BR, or you don't have all your controls set up, you can play a bit more using just the radar's HMD mode. You can also stick to safer, more defensive positions, like flying out on the far left or right sides and at lower altitudes, not necessarily hugging the ground, but around 3,000 to 4,000 meters up. That way, you'll build up experience and slowly raise your skill ceiling. I actually started the match off really well, getting a kill with a 77 in BVR, which is pretty rare because of how that missile works. But what really let me go for that play was basically the lack of any pings from an F-14, so I knew I had a bit more time to play aggressive. After that, it's usually about starting a pretty drawn-out defense, which you gotta do to bleed off any missiles that get locked onto you, and sometimes you even get to pick off targets that play way too aggressive, like that F-15 over there. And by doing very little, just not making mistakes really, because of how impatient players usually are in this mode, you can actually end up in some great positions, like the one I'm in right now. Remembering that a good position is basically being able to attack from a hot aspect, and that there is not more than one aggressor aircraft in that same spot. We handled the furball pretty well, but it took a lot out of my arsenal. Since this jet isn't exactly the best for gun kills, even though you can pull them off, I'd rather not risk it. The safest move here is to go rearm. Since the path looks clear, I'm just gonna cut the video here and we'll jump back in when the action picks up again. Alright guys, another match, same old game plan. Once again, no Iranian F-14s, so I don't have to go super hard on defense. Here, I'm just in a neutral aspect, ready in case I need to defend. Since I'm up against an F-15, I don't know if it's an MSIP or an F-15A. And in this fight, if I shoot from too far, his AMRAAM wins, and my 77 just turns into a useless missile. So the secret here is simple. Be patient on the approach. I'm out of Fox 3s, so it's smart to drop my altitude now. Even without the most important missiles in my arsenal, I've still got a decent amount of IR missiles left. Since there aren't many enemies left, they're still useful in a 1 versus 1 situation, so I can try to fish for a kill or two. So I'm gonna go look for that opportunity. In this situation, it's pretty straightforward. I'm up close and there's a nervous MiG-29 locking onto me. It might not even be a MiG-29, could be any flanker really, since they have the same radar frequency. That means there's at least an ER missile coming my way, and even though it's not an F-14, the ER is just as dangerous at this range. I'm not about to risk it, so I'm gonna start a full defensive maneuver and wait for my RWR to calm down. This F5 is pretty much neutral right now, so I really need to have some trigger discipline here. Even though I've got a lot of missiles, every wasted shot still matters. I think I've done enough multipathing for now. As long as it's a controlled situation where your team is well positioned and spread out, anything's possible, but that's pretty rare, and usually everything just turns into a mess, so I'm just gonna climb and see what else I can do in this match. A lot of people are generalizing the premium Su-30 as just a bad vehicle, saying it sucks and trashing the pilots who fly it too. I actually slipped up for a second and didn't give a player and their jet the respect they deserved, and I almost paid the price for it. Remember, the flanker is a jet where performance really depends on the pilot's skill and creativity. It's great for overshoots and reverses, so if you mess up, you're done. In this case, when I realized I made a mistake, all I could do was survive long enough for my teammate to show up. The play was already set up for him, but if he hadn't been there, I definitely would have gotten taken out. Of course, I really wasn't expecting the other pilot to be that aggressive, especially since he wasn't even in a true 1 versus 1. There were still at least 3 of my teammates flying around. So it's kinda reckless to burn all your energy like that, because any little thing, like an F-16 showing up, and you're toast. You'll definitely have a better shot at surviving if you manage your energy and save the fun button for the right moments. Alright guys, here's my last match. No big explanations or gameplay breakdowns this time. Just for those of you who like to watch what I do in a more chill, kinda artistic way, stick around till the end, where I'll say my goodbyes. Alright folks, that's all for today. Hope you liked it. Do you agree or disagree with anything I said? Tell me down in the comments. Your feedback is super important to me. The video ends, but the chat stays. Karma out.